I didn't know when exactly I learned to listen without reacting. Maybe it was after years of being spoken over, or after watching confidence get confused for competence in rooms I helped build. Or maybe it happened quietly, the way habits do, one small decision repeated until it feels like instinct. The gathering had the soft edges of routine. A long table, the same chipped serving spoon. My mother's voice rising just a little too brightly when she laughed. My father nodding along to whatever story was being told, as if approval were a muscle he'd trained to fire on command. My brother leaned back in his chair, the posture of someone who believes the room belongs to him. He had that grin, the one that didn't ask for agreement because it assumed it. When he spoke, he didn't look at me right away. He spoke to the table. "I've seen it all," he said. "Your jewelry, property deeds, and that account in your name. Thanks for the gift." The sentence landed and stayed there. No one asked how. No one questioned why. My parents beamed like the punchline had been delivered perfectly. It wasn't just pride. It was relief, the relief of believing a problem had solved itself. I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, the reflexive urge to correct the record, to explain, to argue facts. But I didn't. I watched the room instead. Watched how entitlement behaves when it's certain no one will challenge it. My mother reached for his glass and refilled it, a small ceremonial gesture. My father's eyes flicked toward me, then away, the way people do when they think want something without paying for it. I smiled because it was easier than letting my face tell the truth. And because smiling, I'd learned, can be a form of restraint. There had been paperwork once, years ago. Meetings where I'd been the one asking questions that slowed things down. Titles explained carefully. Trusts drafted with conditions that sounded dull at dinner parties, but mattered in daylight. I'd signed a loan after everyone else lost interest. I'd been told I worried too much. That family didn't need guardrails. I excused myself quietly and stepped outside, phone already in my hand. The call connected quickly, which wasn't luck. It was preparation. "I need you to initiate the clause," I said. One sentence. No emotion explanation. "I understand," came the reply. "Well, proceed." I went back inside before anyone noticed I'd left. The shift didn't come with drama. No sirens. No raised voices. Just a knock at the door that interrupted dessert. A man I didn't recognize stood there with a folder under his arm, his expression neutral in the way professionals learn to keep it. "My apologies for the interruption," he said. "I'm here regarding several assets currently under review." My brother laughed, a sharp sound that stopped too quickly. "Assets?" he repeated, like it was a joke he hadn't heard before. The man stepped in and laid the folder on the table, opening it with deliberate care. He spoke in terms that didn't invite debate, ownership, access, misrepresentation. Words that didn't accuse but clarified. Each sentence removed a piece of certainty from the room. My parents' smiles thinned, then disappeared. My mother's hand hovered mid-air, still holding the serving spoon. My father's nod slowed, then stopped altogether. My brother stood up, confusion bleeding into irritation. "There's been a mistake," he said. "Everything's already been verified." The man finished gently. "Yes, that's why I'm here." Fear doesn't always look like panic. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Like people waiting for someone else to speak first. No one looked at me, not at first. When they did, it wasn't anger they showed. It was something closer to disbelief, as if they were trying to reconcile the version of me they'd ignored with the reality in front of them. I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to add. The man collected signatures. He explained next steps. He apologized again for the disruption, though his tone suggested he didn't mean it personally. When he left, the door closed with a sound that felt heavier than it should have. Dinner went cold. My brother sat down slowly, his earlier confidence nowhere to be found. My parents stared at the table, their expressions rearranging themselves around a new understanding that assumptions, once challenged, don't recover. Later, after the room had emptied and the dishes sat untouched, my mother asked quietly, "Why didn't you tell us?" I thought about all the times I had. about the meetings and warnings and shrugged responses. I thought about how telling only matters when someone is willing to listen. I did, I said. And that was the most honest answer I had. I didn't celebrate. There was no victory in it. Just a quiet recalibration of where things stood. Relationships shifted, not dramatically, but permanently. Conversations became careful. Invitations less frequent. I learned something then. Standing in the aftermath of assumed ownership undone, patience isn't passive. It's active restraint. It's choosing the moment when truth can no longer be dismissed as opinion. And sometimes, the most powerful response is letting clarity do the talking while you remain silent.